Okay. So, you guys can hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's clarify, I was a citizen before Markita. Let me make sure. So, we're going to start off this morning by talking a little bit about us, how we became us, right? We've been together for about 19 years now, since high school. Definitely already a citizen, by the way. We've been married for 11 years with 2 amazing kids. But let me tell you about how we actually got started.
Just stop there. I don't want you to lie in church, get struck by lightning, so let me save you now and tell the truth here. So we did meet as teenagers in church, and Dwain was crushing on me from afar. Kind of stalkerish, guys, all right? But I thought he was cute, and he had all the checkbox for the good, I'm going to make him my husband. Ladies, you know you have a little list of what you want, right? And so I sent my friend over to his house. He calls them spies to confirm my suspicions, right? Because you can't just go up to somebody. That's rude, right? So they did confirm that, yes, he wanted me, right? And so then I made my move because he was too shy to make the move first. I was a little bit fast, guys, just a little bit, right? And so we spoke for months on AIM, AOL, dial-up. You guys know about that? So for months and months we were talking, and we really, really built a friendship before starting like our dating relationship. And I thought that was like really, really important, and it helped us in the beginning parts of our relationship. So we knew pretty early on when we did really get together that we would get married and live happily ever after, right?
Yeah, that's not entirely how I remember the story, but we're going to fast forward a little bit. We're going to fast forward to us being asked to do this. We've always had great spiritual leaders in our lives. For me, my parents, various church leaders. And I was told long ago that God has called me to speak or preach. Now, if you know me, my immediate answer would be something like, well, I'm not sure, I don't know whose phone God is calling, but I definitely didn't hear mine ring. However, my wife, the encourager, she would always be in my ear saying things like, go ahead and say no to Jesus if you want to, but I don't want to stand there. I don't want to stand there when the lightning strikes. Or the Bible says, so when Pastor Josh and Adam, they were the first ones to ask me individually to do this, I immediately told them no. I didn't even tell Markita about it. I just said, nope, not going to happen. The next day or two, we both got a message from Pastor Mike. And I couldn't just say no outright because now Markita's involved. So my response was, we'll think about it. Markita and I spoke about it a little bit. She basically said she wasn't fully for it, but she really wasn't against it either. I used that as my opportunity to actually call Pastor Mike, and I probably gave him every excuse I can think of for him to actually say, nope, you don't have to do it. Obviously, that didn't work. Markita's only response to this entire thing was, she's good with whatever I decided.
So in the background, I was just praying about it. I truly believe in not blocking blessings. So I didn't want to say no when it comes to like serving the Lord. If somebody asked me to do something for God. So even though I may have been ambivalent about it, I knew that praying about it was really the answer for me. And dealing all these years with someone like Dwain, I have grown to understand that he will always say no and think about it later. So I have to I've learned to be supportive in his decision, but yet encouraging him to kind of grow into his purpose, which brings us to our first relationship, which is being a helpmate to your spouse. And like, what does that even mean?
Throughout our relationship, Markita has always encouraged me to step outside of my comfort zone. She saw greatness in me that I didn't see, or more accurately, was afraid of seeing. In my eyes, Markita, however, she was the one that was always destined for greatness. She had the confidence to get there. Being a helpmate. In Genesis 2:18, it says, "The Lord God said, 'It is not good for man to be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him.'"
Right here.
For me, it means that we are part of one unit, acting in different ways to accomplish the same goals. What that looks like may differ for everyone, but we have highlighted a couple of ways that works for us. The first one is acts of service. It's not about doing really extravagant things. It's not about going all out.
Even though it could be. You could do that
You
still.
could. Yes. But it's really not about going, it's not about going all out and doing something for your partner you know they would really like or appreciate. We both honestly feel like that at times throughout our relationship. We need constant reminders of what and when this service should be. What we have come to realize is that sometimes it is okay to speak up and say, "This is where I need help," or be more inquisitive, asking questions. Just ask, how can I help you, or how can I make things a little bit easier for you?
So you may have asked your husband to help you fold the laundry, maybe cook something, put the kids to bed, etc. And it may have been several times you've had to remind them throughout the several years, over and over and over. But the same goes for men, in whatever you may need it from your wife. But in my life group this past week, we learned about granting grace and mercy for others as God grants grace and mercy to us. So we ask for all this mercy from God and grace, but we don't really offer it up to others. And so I thought that was important to bring here, so we have to remember grace, mercy, and reminders for our spouses also.
And we're thankful for grace and mercy. Our next point is being that counsel or the confidant for your spouse. That's being a shoulder to cry on, being the person who listens to your fears, your anxieties, your doubts, and also being able to help your partner to come up with ways to push past all of that. It also means celebrating each other's accomplishments, ideas, and new goals. I often tell my employees at work, for those who don't know, I am a bank manager, but I tell them that my leadership style has a lot to do more about the conversations that Markita and I have. Oftentimes there's things at work that frustrates me, or I need to find a better way to communicate to my staff. I actually go home and I vent about my frustrations at work, and Markita would speak to me about it. Sometimes our conversation is just for me to actually vent. Other times, she helps me to see where my actions may have contributed to that frustration.
And so Dwain calls me his encourager, or I push him. I tell him, you can do it. I'm his cheerleader, and that's part of my job. We need to help each other stay on task, ask questions, show interest and stuff, even if you're not really interested in whatever it is, but show interest anyway. Believing in them and praying for them. And it's not just about just talking about it, but we want you to tell them that. Like, I believe in you. Like, I know you can do this, Dwain.
Aww.
I know you can sing. And showing them in acts, like different things by like just encouraging or being there for them. So, and it is very, very annoying dealing with someone who likes to say no all the time first without thinking about it. I don't know who that is, right?
Me either.
Do you know how many different kinds of tricks I had to use to get Dwain to be part of the worship and art teams? Ask Lisa. So now I've resorted to telling him just, okay, honey, no problem. Me and Jesus is going to pray about it. You do what you want to do. Me and Jesus is going to pray. And what happens? He's on stage. But in turn, even as stubborn as Dwain is for himself, when it comes to me and anything that I want to do or ideas I have or goals I have, he is so, so supportive. Even when I slow down and I just don't feel like doing anything, or he sees I'm stressed, he just kind of lets me be, and I really, really appreciate that. So a lot of nonverbal communication and me kind of taking a step back sometimes, or just leave me alone. I don't want to have kids. I don't want to have a husband. Leave me alone. He's still there, and he just handles it all, and I'm really grateful for that, because not everybody has that.
Sometimes you got to pick up on the cues. Our next point, communication. It's not just about what we say, but also about how we say it, as well as those little nonverbal communication Markita spoke about.
Definitely.
Being able to listen to each other, to ask questions, to investigate a little bit more, and to value the diversity or the differences in each other.
Because we're different.
Definitely. Throughout the many years we've been together, we've come up with, I guess, what you would call rules of engagement that works for us. First one is showing grace. Mm-hmm. There's no perfect relationship on earth because there are no perfect people. A relationship will only be as healthy as the hearts of those involved. You will never be able to have lasting, good relationships if you do not have an abundance of grace. God gives us grace, and we ought to try to give our spouse a fraction of the grace that God gives us. And as Markita told you earlier, she definitely gives me a little bit more than a fraction of grace. Next point, being mindful of our tone, our language that we use when we're communicating with each other. We try not to scream or call each other out of our names. All of our friends actually say to us that they've never actually heard us arguing. But we have discussions.
Yes. Long ones.
Yes, we do. So this is actually one of the hot points in our marriage. When I get passionate, I get loud and maybe a bit thunderous. Now, the thunder comes from... So the men in my family have what everyone refers to as the thunder.
Yes.
We have this big booming voice when we speak. Markita will actually stop me in my track before it even gets there. That is one of her triggers, and she will literally shut down. She explains that people usually shout at their children or their animals.
Children and animals.
It doesn't belong in our relationship. However, that actually messes up my entire thought process. I forget everything that I was about to say when she does that. But it is also important for me to respect her and ensure that she feels respected. That brings us to valuing each other's differences. We don't always see eye to eye, but I think we both try to see things from each other's perspectives.
Our best.
I have admittedly still ended up doing what I wanted to do at times, but I try to be a little bit more intentional about this.
So when we talk about communication, I want to talk a little bit about how we used to do it, like early on in our marriage when we were younger and dumber. And now that we're a little bit older, we're a little bit smarter. Dwain used to keep everything that was bothering him to himself, right? And he wouldn't say anything about it. If it bothered him, he's like, I'm going to get over it. I'll be okay, right?
Avoiding those long conversations.
Avoiding all the long conversations. But now he has learned that it is better to start communicating. It's better to start talking to each other. So we've gone through a lot of different things, and so even if he has to email me, leave me a Post-it note, I don't care. As long as you're communicating with me, I am happy, and let me know what's going on, especially if I'm doing something wrong to him or hurting him in some way. And he does dread our long chats, because when he opens the door, I step in and I start swimming. It's a big ocean, and I have lots of fun by the end of it, and I feel so much better. And he's like, but that's Dwain. And now, if you allow me to tell him myself a little bit, I have a big mouth. I've grown into that. And so I never used to back down, quick-witted, always have an answer. I help him finish his thought if he's taking too long to think it. Some of you out there, I know y'all laughing because it's you. And I always have an answer for everything he has to say, and that was me respecting him.
So let me give you guys an image, right? You guys watch Law and Order, right? Okay. So those detectives, they have to compile a whole bunch of evidence, right, in order to prove that someone is guilty or someone is wrong. Now, Markita, I literally have to get a folder filled with evidence to prove my point, right? This is why our conversation will last into the night.
Because he doesn't come with his
and
evidence.
I have work in the morning, right? so just to give a little, it's not just she's quick-witted. You have to come
with proof.
With proof.
In the pudding. That's the truth. It's not a lie. I still do it. I'm trying. Pray for me. Right? And so I said before that was me respecting him, but was I really respecting him in doing this, right? At first, I blamed Dwain. I told him it was your fault for allowing me. You let the monster grow. Why did you do that? But when he finally told me and really opened up and told me, like, sometimes that me fighting back so much, him having to get that pile of evidence, sometimes tells him that I don't trust him, it was a shock to me. And I didn't like that feeling that I was hurting him in that way. I was living like in a selfish bubble, but it was time for me to take responsibility. It was time for me to make some changes. So I learned to listen. I am learning to listen, understand, and show in my actions that I have blind faith, and so I can be a better helpmate to my husband.
We are both still and will still constantly keep working on those parts, but finding a balance for both of us without losing ourselves, personality, our spark, is a hard task.
Yeah.
It's necessary, however, for us to win in a marriage. Which brings us to the second part of communication, being able to be the biggest loser. When we talk about winning in marriage, we're really asking, how can you be the biggest loser in your marriage, from disagreements to fun or funny things? Understanding that your spouse is not your competitor and choosing to win in God's way. That means getting up early to make breakfast for your honey. For those new parents, rushing to see who will be the first one to change that 2 a.m. diaper or the feeding, making your spouse's events or their career priority over yours, or just choosing to watch those Hallmark Christmas movies over my anime.
So about a month ago, I completed a plan on the Bible app called Choosing to Lose Wins in Marriages by Peter Briscoe. And the verse that stuck with me was Mark 9:35. And this is where Jesus sat down and called his 12 disciples over to him and said, "Whoever wants to be first must take the last place and be the servant of everyone else." And I knew that there's something important for us to share today because it's still a hard one for myself, and I always need refreshers, right? So being a D personality, my mindset is losing equals failure. And who wants to fail, right? Nobody wants that. So this devotion helped to remind me and to reinforce that losing doesn't always equal that failure. It may mean losing my sleep or rearranging my schedule so that I can please or honor my husband. But it also makes him feel stronger and wiser and, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, make him feel better, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but in this way, I'm winning by being the biggest loser. Losing that sleep, I'm winning. Rearranging that schedule, I'm still winning. And God wants us to win in that way. So the biggest loser really means having more fun, which brings us to our last big tip about having fun with each other, because that's really important. So Dwain and I love to laugh.
And I'm going to have to bring out my Caribbean accent here. We just love stupidness.
And to translation for you who are not Caribbean, what he meant is that we love to laugh and be really silly together, okay? That's translation of what he said. So I love to laugh and I love to do silly things. So I love to show Dwain my cool dance moves. I create dance battles, and sometimes when he doesn't want to participate, I do the other side. So I have the whole competition by myself.
She does.
For him, sometimes in the middle of him watching his anime, I'll jump on his lap and I'll give him about 1,000,002 kisses because I know he missed me all day. I'm sure of it. In the middle of it, and I just right all over the face.
Yep.
There, and now he's bald, even better.
Yep. She counts them too.
Yes. And I have added Annalise to help me out, right? So she joins in the fun sometimes.
Part of having fun, right? Doing things that your spouses love. Markita loves massages.
I do.
She's actually banned me from giving massages to others because she says they would want to marry me.
And I want to keep them all to myself.
And for the guys, you know that massages can lead to that playground, right? That Adam spoke about. You know, the swings, the slides, all of that stuff. So, massages.
So the last part of having fun that we want to share is being intentional about making time for each other. So it's so easy to get caught up in the day in life of your career, your kids, yourself, and what you need, that we tend to put the second most important relationship on the back burner most of the time. Part of the reason why we moved out of New York was because it was so easy to do that in the hustle and bustle. But in the end, that didn't really end up happening. When we moved here, it still was, we didn't still prioritize each other as we thought we would have or could have or should have. We had a lot of family and friends that was there to support us, so when we needed that date night or time alone, we had that there. And so moving here, when we don't have anybody as close, it made it a little bit harder.
Now, here, I still have my brother who lives in St. Augustine, and every so often we'll trade kids, right? I drop my kids off, ring the bell, just run away, right? But it's important to have that couple time, that alone time, right? My brother has been very helpful in giving us that time here. And I'll say this. My mother-in-law, Markita's mom, to this day, she is the best mother-in-law in the entire world, and I am her favorite child.
That's the truth.
Right. She will literally tell you that. So she, no matter what, she pushes us to spend that time together. On our anniversaries or just randomly throughout the year, she will call us and say that she wants to come stay with her grandkids, and then she will kick us out of the house, right? Either go spend a week together or go for a weekend alone. But she makes sure that she encourages us to, even when we talk to her one-on-one, she'll ask us about going on dates and things like that.
Thanks, Mom.
Marriage, honestly, can be a roller coaster, but remembering to have fun with each other goes a long way.
Lots of fun.
So that's basically most of the tips that we have for you guys. Honestly, thank you for allowing us this opportunity. Over the past few weeks, we heard tips from Adam and Chelsea, Josh and Ashley, and Pastor Mike and his wife. Marriage is more than a full-time job. There are no breaks, there's no days off. It is continuous work. What works for us may not work for you all. The key is to be intentional and committed to the process. Again, 11 years. We've been together 19 years, and we still have fun together. As we close, we want to make sure that we identify some of the common themes that you've heard throughout these past weeks that we've learned.
A few tips, right? And so I'm going to go over some wife tips, and Dwain's going to go over some husband tips. So if you have your pencils and pads down, some of these are important. So my first one is praying over your husband's head, as we talked about, that I do often, right? So just remembering that God is in control. Philippians 4:6 says, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he has done. So if you know in your heart that your husband is going down the wrong path, doing something that you feel he shouldn't be doing, or something that you really know that your family should be going this direction, then there's no reason for you to fight about it. Go to God. That's who's in control. And I think that's really important. It's important, yes, to express yourself with each other and communicate it, but ultimately go to God. Ask for God's covering over your husband, your marriage, your home, and your family. Ask God to be the director for your husband, to open his ears for him to hear and open up his heart. God hears our prayers, and it's really, really important for us as wives to making sure that we pray for our family. And I have a lot of testimonies, and they may be small, but they're really important to me of how they've changed things in our marriage, for our family, even the move here, and how important that was.
Now, for the husbands, being a spiritual leader, Pastor Mike spoke last week about the order, right? So God first, then comes your spouse, then your kids, and the church, and everyone else, right? It is important for us to be that spiritual leader in the house, making sure that we love God more than we love our wife, encouraging devotions as a family or as a couple, and making sure that you put God first in everything that you do, so that everything else will kind of fall in line.
And to backtrack a little bit into the having fun, my second tip is for us wives is to get it together, especially for those of us who are home a lot. We be a mess during the week, right? So do something that makes you feel good, makes you feel sexy, be sexy, get sexy, shave those legs. Winter is over, all right? Come on. Do your hair, become a different person for him, right, honey? Wear your pretty underwear, or don't wear. Be ready for your massages, right? Cuddling, boom, boom, sweeping, whatever it is that you need to do. So for us to get it together a little more often.
For the guys, second tip, leading with humility. Don't be selfish. Pastor Mike and Sister Kelly spoke about this last week as well, Philippians 2:3. Basically, don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. 1 Peter 3:7 says, in the same way, you husbands must give honor to your wives. Treat your wife with understanding as you live together. She may be weaker than you are, but she is your equal partner in God's gift of new life. Treat her as you should, so your prayers are not hindered.
One of my last tip is being a kingdom woman and to have a kingdom marriage. So there's books on that by Crystal Evans Hurst and Tony Evans. I know that we've done a life group on them before here as a church. And I couldn't get through the whole book in one sitting because it was a lot for me. When I got to that part about submissiveness, and that really had to stop after that section was over and kind of deal with myself, because growing up in New York City, growing up in my generation, I could do battle by myself, submit to who, why, that doesn't make sense, right? But really reading the passages, reading the message and the scriptures that was with it really made me deal with myself and what I thought it was, right? When we did premarital counseling before we got married, I did learn a bit about it. But I don't think I really truly understood what it was until maybe about 5 years ago when I was reading these books. And understanding that learning what submission is, not what you heard from the church folk, not what society tells you it is, not what your culture has told you it is, but really going back to the word and understanding what that means. And I thought that was really important. And my understanding changed something in me, which changed something in our marriage. So I think it made it better. And I'm not saying that I'm good at it, but I'm better at it. But God has blessed me with a husband that has never even attempted to take advantage of that or try to force me into that. And so that I really, really do love about Dwain. Like, he's not that guy that's pushy or say, like, what kind of woman are you? You don't make my breakfast at 6 a.m. when I want it. Like, he's not that guy, but I've learned that, and he's given me grace.
Well, you can thank my mother for that. She always told me that I am not going to have any person's girl child doing everything for me. So I have to learn to cook, clean, and do everything at an early age.
I want to encourage all the women here, whether you're single, married, to be a Proverbs 31 woman, but a modern day Proverbs 31 woman. So really get into the word and understand what it means and not just what everybody says it means.
Our next point, and I guess it applies to both husbands and wives, praying together. Yeah. I spoke about my parents. My parents they've been married a really, really long time. One thing that I've always admired about their relationship is that no matter what is going on, they can be in a fight, no matter what's happening in their lives, every single morning, without fail, before work, they will get up, they will kneel at the side of their bed together and pray.
Undisturbed.
Literally, without fail. Some of you know my father has been sick for the last year. He's been in the hospital for months at a time. However, my mother will literally be up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, FaceTiming my dad in the hospital so they can pray together, right? So making sure that you put God first and pray together as a unit. Right? All right.
Right.
Now, our last one, and it is, again, everyone spoke about this, right? Making sure that you love your partner biblically and extravagantly. Doing those fun things together, making them laugh, enjoying the playground, folding the laundry, picking up the broom and sweeping, right? But making sure that you love each other through it.
Thank you, guys.